Welcome, seekers of hidden knowledge, to the mystical realm of the occult. Delve into the secrets of the universe as we journey together into the enigmatic world of ancient wisdom. Brought to you by your guide through the shadows of enlightenment, Wisdom Rocker. Uncover the mysteries, unlock the power, and journey with us as we explore the hidden depths within the pages of forgotten scrolls and ancient texts. Prepare to embark on a journey beyond the ordinary, where wisdom transcends time and knowledge is your greatest ally. Welcome to Wisdom Rocker. Prepare to awaken your inner sage. In this video, we will be uncovering the wisdom within the chapters of
The Theosophical Seal, a study for the student and the non-student, by Arthur M. Kuhn, with an introduction by James S. Perkins. This book is dedicated to all searchers for wisdom. 1958. Chapter 2. Unity Becomes Duality. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1. With this simple and direct statement begins the world's most famous book. Within these 10 words is locked Earth's greatest mystery. Here is a statement blindly accepted on faith by religion, denied and rejected by science. Did a divine being create a universe and all living things out of nothing, or is matter the one primordial substance from which existence has sprung? Between these two extremes of thought lies concealed the most profound truth. I have chosen these lines as the theme of the present study for 2 reasons. First, because they contain a truth so rudimentary as to lie beyond the possibility either of proof or contradiction. Indeed, the simplest statement of truth is often so fundamental that it is utterly impossible to formulate one single sentence in its defense. Can it be that there is one ultimate truth so exalted as to be beyond the power of the intellect to comprehend, while all lesser truths are merely parts of that one truth and therefore relative to each other? When Jesus stood before Pilate in the Hall of Judgment, Pilate asked him, "What is truth?" That question has been reverberating down the centuries. It is the cry of the human intellect reaching out into the infinite for ultimate truth. Truth and reality. Any statement of truth must be predicated by the idea of reality. Obviously, what is true must be real, and what is unreal must be untrue. But what is reality? If there is one thing which is the object of universal search, it is reality. To the scientist, matter is the one and only reality. Only that which can be observed by the senses, aided by man's marvelous instruments, measured and tested in his laboratories. Only matter, however attenuated and ethereal, is the one ultimate reality. All else is unreal. To the mystic, the devotee, or the yogi, God or spirit is the one reality. All things relative to matter and time are but temporal and eventually cease to be, and are therefore illusory and unreal. The outer senses are limited in their capacity to discern truth. Only the inner faculties of the spirit can really penetrate the heart of reality. This brings me to the second reason for using the opening sentence in the Bible as the keynote of this study, and that is because as we try to contemplate the full significance of its meaning, there comes to the mind a whole multitude of dualities. We might even venture that from this one thought there come all possible dualities and opposites. 2 ultimates. For here we have the 2 extremes of opinion regarding reality. Between these opposing poles of thought, the scientific and the mystic, we find every range of philosophic and religious belief. We have come to think of the 2 ultimate realities as spirit and matter. But this conclusion fails utterly to solve the mystery. The source of being lies beyond both spirit and matter. There cannot be 2 first causes. Yet it is quite impossible for the mind to conceive of absoluteness without at the same time embracing the idea of manifestation. But it is possible to conceive of spirit and matter as emanating from this absoluteness, this undifferentiated beingness, matter and motion. Yet it is not spirit and matter which is the first pair of ultimates, but spirit and motion. If we reason for a moment, we shall see that it is motion which is the first creative act. Spirit moved. Motion precedes matter rather than being the result of matter. Science agrees with the occult teachings that matter, however dense or solid, may be reduced to motion. This reduction of all matter in the universe to motion would justify the theory held by many that matter is an illusion and an unreality. This line of thought could run in a vicious cycle and reason the subjective world out of existence. Our sense of reality requires a radical adjustment. Time and space. Since the very first act of deity is motion, there comes with that action the concept of space. Action predicates motion, and motion implies space. Without space, the idea of movement is impossible. Movement must go somewhere. That space brings the idea of extension, which is its measure. Again, the idea of movement in space brings with it the idea of time. However swift the motion, a time element enters, and with time comes its measured duration. The idea of a divine creation brings into our minds a whole series of dual concepts: spirit matter or spirit motion, motion space, space-time, extension duration. Each would be unthinkable without its twin counterpart, time and eternity. When we think of reality in relation to time, many problems immediately appear. For instance, past, present, and future. We are living in a time world which is ceaselessly slipping past us. Actually, we live in a point which we call the present. All that we really have is this now, yet the moment we think of it, that instant of now has become the past, and a million new instants out of the future have taken its place, and as relentlessly have disappeared into the past. This past we have only as memory, the future exists for us only in anticipation. We have been told that only the now is real, but does this now embrace past, present, and future? We are like passengers on a train moving across a vast countryside. Where we are at any given moment is now. In this sense, time is an illusion, because our now is continually slipping past us as our train moves swiftly on into the future. But our reason tells us that the whole countryside was there before we arrived, and that it remained there after we had gone by. The illusion was within ourselves. And though we may recognize this elusiveness for what it is, we never for a moment think of it as an unreality. We could hardly expect reality to be conditioned by our cognizance of it. Who can say where reality begins and ends? And what is its relation to time and eternity? Is there an eternal outside of time? Put this question another way. Each of us has at one time asked, do we step out of time into eternity at the moment of death? Or is time but a finite segment of eternity marked off by the movement of certain heavenly bodies, much as we see objects from the window of a fast-moving train? When did time begin, and will it ever cease to be? What, after all, is eternity? Has there always been an eternity? Some hints as to the answers to these questions may appear to us as we search together for the mystery of the second symbol of our symbolical alphabet, ist-ence. As we look at the world about us, it is difficult to think of anything which does not possess a dual set of essential qualities or characteristics. The very coming of an object into existence automatically brings with it a duality. It is as if each unit of manifestation becomes split or divided by that very act. Indeed, the word exist, Latin, exist, suggests to be out of. We may infer from this that manifestation is the objectivization of an inner or subjective reality, which is another way of saying that everything exists in the mental or spiritual world before its appearance in material form. This naturally brings us to our starting point. We mean this literally as well as figuratively. For the point is the most nearly perfect symbol of that first cause or principle from which all things proceed. In the beginning, the point projected itself into the line. The phrase in the beginning refers not so much to the time sequence as the causative one following another as cause and effect. Faber d. Olivet, in his Hebraic Tongue Restored, translates this first word in the Bible as at first in principle hieroglyphically, as he says, represented by the point within the circle. Creation or evolution. In the statement of creation quoted from Genesis, so naively accepted by millions of people and as casually rejected by the materialist, there lies, as we have intimated, a sublime truth. The accepted opinion implies that a deity, wholly apart and separate from his universe, by a mere word, brought forth that universe out of nothing, complete with every type of life and form. The scientist, on the other hand, rejects this theory as contrary to natural law and reason, and holds that the universe is solely the product of evolutionary processes in which an external deity has no place. He postulates an original primordial substance out of which life and form, over untold millennia, have slowly evolved. It is true that he has no solution as to the origin of this primordial substance. Somewhere between these two ideas, or perhaps embracing each of them, is to be found the truth each is seeking. We begin our discussion with the assertion that God, using the term in the sense of the absolute being all, there can be nothing outside of or apart from him. Before this absolute can become manifest, there must first be movement or motion, which implies extension in time and space. How can we presume to describe this creative process? We may say that deity divides himself, or more accurately polarizes himself, that is, he separates himself into two aspects or phases: one, that aspect of himself which ever remains the one eternal God; the other, that aspect of himself which is to become his manifestation or creation. We recall a line from the ancient Hindu poem of the Mahabharata in which the Supreme Being is quoted as saying, "Having pervaded this whole universe with one fragment of myself I remain." It will be noted that God first created the heaven and the earth. The author of Genesis goes on to say, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters, and God divided the light from the darkness. Clearly, the contrasting terms heaven and earth, light and darkness, refer to this universal duality, the words heaven and light signifying the spiritual realm, while earth and darkness allude to manifestation. The line of separation, the firmament dividing the waters from the waters, is that imaginary line where the above meets the below, where spirit touches matter, where life becomes form and form embodies life. It is an axiom which defies contradiction that all manifestation is dual. Science is discovering that in every form, however dead, there is embodied a hidden life. It is split. That minutest particle of matter called the atom, and found locked therein a force and energy beyond the capacity of man to measure. These discoveries confirm the teaching of the ancient wisdom that within every form, however minute, there resides a fragment of the divine life. Duality and manifestation. The verb created contains a three-way concept: the one who creates, the action itself, and the object created. God, as absolute being, by an internal activity polarizes himself, and, in the process whereby manifestation comes into being, we find that aspect of himself which we call spirit acting upon that other aspect of his nature called matter. And it is out of the interaction and union of these two opposing poles of his being that all things come into existence. The positive pole of being is spirit, life, power, causative or activating principle. The negative pole of being is matter, substance, reproductivity or formative principle. Thus the one becomes to God as Father or creative life principle, and God as Mother or formative principle, by whose union all living forms come into being. An honest appraisal of this dual concept of deity and manifestation should bring religion and science closer together. While unity is the essential characteristic of deity or spirit, duality is the very essence of manifestation. Spirit and matter, as opposite poles of the one reality, become reflected in numberless pairs of opposites. This duality is found also in the universal law of attraction and repulsion. It is by the eternal interplay or balance of those twin forces, centrifugal and centripetal, that the universe is upheld and sustained. Should one predominate, every particle in the whole universe would break into an infinite number of separated pieces, each flying away from every other. Should the other force prevail, the entire mass would contract into a solid core of inconceivable hardness. The very existence of matter seems to depend upon the continued operation of these two laws. Man also embodies this fundamental duality. In essence, he is a unity, an individuality, a monad. In his manifestation, he is twofold. On the one hand, he is spirit or ego, which is the likeness of his divine parent, and on the other he has a physical or animal nature, which is his inheritance from his earth mother. Saint Paul recognized this duality in our natures when he said, "As we have borne the image of the earthy, so shall we bear the image of the heavenly." Thus do religion and science find their justification and completion in each other. Each complements the other to tell the whole story of creation. Science is the approach to the one truth through the investigation and knowledge of things and of their infinite relationships. Religion is the attempt to comprehend and interpret the universe in terms of spirit. The line. Of all geometrical figures, the line most adequately symbolizes what we have been attempting to put into words. In our preceding study, we saw that the point was the sign of God the Father, the first cause or principle of being. The line, on the other hand, represents God in his capacity as the creator of his universe, deity becoming manifest in and through his creation. It represents God in action or motion, even as the line is formed by the point in motion. If the point represents God as being, the line depicts him as becoming. It is the symbol of the first act of creation. From what has been said, as well as from evidences yet to be presented, the line may rightly be called the second letter of our symbolical alphabet. The line has one dimension, extension. Dr. Annie Besant writes, "The point, speaking symbolically, vibrates between center and circumference, thus making the line which marks the drawing apart of spirit and matter, to which Dr. Arundel adds, the two poles between which is spun the web of a universe." The line, he adds, is one of the most marvelous of symbols. Pythagoras is quoted as saying that, as the point corresponds to unity, the line corresponds to the number 2 or duality, because it was produced by the first motion of indivisible nature and formed the juncture between 2 points. The line, writes Manly Hall, is the symbol of the dot in motion. It is the bridge connecting cause with effect. It is the outpouring of cause into effect. The line is the word which was in the beginning, thus is beginning to be born the finite from the infinite, from the undifferentiated infinity, manifestation. In the beginning is the line, which is the word of the evolutionary process. The line is the rule or gauge by which all things are measured. Dr. Arundel brings this thought to life. The line is the divine measure, the yardstick of descent and ascent of the life to be. He continues, naught is outside of it, all is governed by it, all conforms to it, Everything is measured by it. The vertical line. Let us look at the vertical line and the horizontal line. The vertical line is the symbol of God descending to earth. It is equally the symbol of man ascending to heaven. It is at once the path up which man's hopes and aspirations ascend to God, and the path over which God's power and blessing descend to man's aspiration and God's benediction. The vertical line is the sign of the divine incarnation, of the Word made flesh of God becoming man. It is also the symbol of human ascension, of man becoming divine. Over this line flow the life currents whereby man is nourished and sustained. We quote again from the Lotus Fire. The vertical line is the line of vitalization, vivification. The horizontal line is the line of manifestation, fecundation. Again he writes, the vertical line vitalizes, the horizontal line equilibrates. The vertical line would seem to be the channel of force for God the Father, while the horizontal line is the channel of force for God the Mother. Polarity. As there is polarity in a bar of steel, so do we visualize polarity in this vertical line. Its upper end reaching heavenward is positive, its lower end resting upon earth is negative. It is the north and south pole upon which the earth rotates. Man, in his physical aspect, fits this symbolism. His spinal column is his vertical line. The north pole is the head reaching toward heaven, his south pole is the feet planted firmly upon earth. Dr. Arundel says, the spinal column is the outward and visible symbol of the line. This is the spine of the universe to be the line which pulsates from north to south. The divine covenant. The vertical line thus becomes the link between the heaven above and the earth beneath, between spirit and matter. In man it is what occultists call the antakarana, that invisible link or silver cord between the higher and the lower selves. It has been poetically called the divine covenant, which links man eternally with God. It is indeed the path upon which the disciple may meet his master, and upon which he must travel to his own divine self, the eternal monad. It is the path of evolution and of initiation. Its purpose is fulfilled in the statement of Jesus, "No man cometh unto the Father but by me." And when man shall have come to his Father, or when the disciple shall have found union with his master, or the lower self shall have become one with his higher, then shall the path, the line, have disappeared, and only the point, the self, remain. The vertical line reveals to us God in his glorious limitation as man. He descends into a heaven and builds an earth that man may climb to him in heaven. The line reveals the beginning, the way, and the end. The horizontal line. If the vertical line is the symbol of man's relation to God, the horizontal line is the symbol of man's relation with man. By the first there is established the fatherhood of God, by the second is affirmed the brotherhood of man. As one is the link between man and God, the other is the eternal bond between man, and if by the former we ascend to God, by the latter we reach outward in service and sacrifice to all creatures. The horizontal line is thus the sign of balance and equality. It encircles the earth that stretches to the outermost limits of the universe. It is by the interplay of these two sets of lines, the vertical and the horizontal, that all forms are wrought, as if an invisible weaver, sitting at his loom by the swift handling of his shuttles, weaves an ever-changing pattern of infinite complexity and beauty. In the web of life, these two lines, the vertical and the horizontal, may be looked upon as representing respectively time and space, duration and extension, the warp and woof, in the intricate pattern of conscious existence. Dr. Arundel certainly penetrated the heart of this mystery of the lines. He wrote, "The vertical line descends into the horizontal line as an infinite soul enters a limited body. The cross is thus a symbol of the incarnated soul. The vertical line symbolizes infinitude. The horizontal line typifies limitation." The cross. We shift for the moment our perspective. It may be said that these two lines become man's ageless creed. Uniting to form the cross, they declare his relationship both to God and to his fellow man. Therein is affirmed his sonship and his brotherhood. In another sense, we may say that the vertical line, as his link with the spiritual, represents the Father, while the horizontal line, as his bond of union with his brothers, represents the Mother. These two unite to form the cross, the oldest symbol known to man, sign of spirit enshrined in matter, portraying the divine sacrifice whereby all living things come into being. The simple act performed by millions of Christians in making this sign of the cross, knowingly or unknowingly, affirms its timeless creed and invokes its hidden power and wisdom. Virtues of the point and line. At the risk of unduly prolonging this discussion, I feel impelled to inject a final concept. It is this: each figure in our symbolic alphabet embodies, as we have seen, a definite idea and a degree of power. Each possesses and suggests, in a mystical sense, a series of special virtues. on the idea and the power inherent in the point, and in the line we have dwelt at some length. For the following thoughts as to their respective virtues we are again indebted to Dr. Arundel. The virtues of the point, he says, are silence, reserve, quietude, will, peace, poise, grace, dignity, self-restraint, attentiveness. The spirit of creation, glory of infinity, unity of life. The virtues of the line are aspiration, steadfastness, perseverance, poise, balance, order, virility, will incarnate kingship. The letter B. We turn our attention to the letter B, Greek beta, Hebrew beth. The association of the letter B with the line in number 2 is not at first hand so obvious as is that of the letter A with the point in the number 1. Yet we shall see that there is a very definite correspondence. Let us look first to its shape or form. The letter B is made by drawing a straight vertical line and then affixing 2 circles, one above the other, to the right of this line. This is most significant. The upper circle would represent the heaven above, the lower the earth beneath. In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, and the vertical line is the covenant which joins heaven and earth, the upper with the lower, spirit with soul, macrocosm and microcosm, man with God. In his book, The Key to the Universe, Dr. F. Homer Curtis quotes Eliphaz Levi as saying, "The letter Beth represents hieroglyphically the heaven and the earth. It represents the Spirit of God born upon the waters and the fecundation of matter by spirit." The form of the letter B thus represents the idea of duality in the manifested universe. Referring to the Hebrew Beth, Dr. Curtis continues, hieroglyphically Beth stands for the mouth of man and is referred to wisdom. Its radical meaning is house or birthplace. Universally, it represents the womb of nature, the secret sanctuary of God, from which there comes into manifestation every creative thought of the divine mind. Leonard Rosman, in his little book, Amen, The Key to the Universe, has expressed some interesting observations. The letter B is the sound symbol of that which is internally developed but not expressed or sent forth. It is a sound of internal activity, a development within an enclosed space. The letter Beth, literally house, represents that in which there is some kind of internal activity, and from which something or somebody is expected to come forth. There is the idea of innerness, of internal development, that which goes on within something as if preparing to come forth. This expresses most significantly the inner meaning of the letter B, both as to its form and sound. The Hebrew letter Beth means literally house or dwelling, an enclosed space within which there dwells spirit, life, or potential activity. Familiar examples may be found in such word combinations as Beth David, house of David, Bethlehem, house of bread, Bethel, house of God, etc. Dialif gives it an additional meaning as signifying mouth, the organ of sound or speech. We may even relate Beth to the human body in which dwells the spirit or life, the word body being derived from the root bod, meaning abode or dwelling. The real correspondence between the line and the letter B lies in its phonetic or sound value. We saw that the sound of the letter A was that of outgoing breath. Ah became the first creative sound. We saw that there was a direct relationship between breath and spirit. These, like the point, are undefined and unlimited. The sound of the letter B is made in 2 steps. First, the lips are lightly closed while a pressure of air is built up within the mouth. There is yet no sound. Then suddenly the mouth and lips are opened, and the built-up internal pressure of air is ejected with a slight explosive force. The first creative force has taken shape, the first sound has become a word. This is exactly what the symbol of the line has meant, the bringing down of the creative force, the word made flesh, vowel and consonant. This brings to light a most significant thought. We suggest that the relationship between the point and the line finds a correspondence in the relationship between vowel and consonant. In a sense, vowels are like the point, they are sound only, without measure or limit. The point finds its definiteness, its meaning, its manifestation even in the line. The sound of the vowel may correspond with force, energy, or even life, but until that force or life is limited and measured by the consonant, it is still inarticulate as regards meaning, definition, or form. The consonant thus becomes the line which establishes or fixes the limits or boundaries to the sound, and words come into being. Words are formed by the limitation of sound, measuring, shaping, and coloring sound to produce an idea. The power of sound becomes the wisdom of form. Sound must be, as it were, cut off into lengths and shaped in order to express meaning and wisdom. Sounds become articulate as they are hemmed in by consonants. The consonants of the alphabet are the limits or boundaries, actually the mold into which the force or life, as expressed through the vowels, can be poured. As life must be expressed through form, so sound, to become articulate, requires the union of consonant and vowel. We think of the vowel as spirit or life represented by the point, while the consonant suggests to us matter or form as measured by the line. to epitomize our study of the line symbol. God is within, as well as beyond his universe, for there is nothing outside of him. The point in motion, becoming the line, is the symbol of spirit becoming matter. Matter and motion are essentially one. Time and space are only those fragments of eternity and infinity which the line can measure. Vowels to be articulate must be limited by consonants. Life to be cognized must be embodied in form. God created a universe by limiting his essential nature. A fragment of the infinite descends from heaven that an immortal soul may be born on earth.
Thanks for watching the Wisdom Rocker. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.